welcome everyone to this evening's session, hosted by Imperial, by LSE, and by UCL. My name's Andy. I'm joined by my colleague Sophie from LSE and my colleague Emily from UCL. And we've also got some of our current students who will introduce themselves a little bit later. Just to run through how a couple of things are going to work, and then we'll get started. So we'll have a presentation from myself and Sophie and Emily. We'll talk a little bit about our universities, a little bit about what it's like to come and study at universities like Imperial, like LSE, and like UCL. There'll be a kind of, some practical tips about applying, and some kind of general information about our universities. We're then going to hear from some of our current students about their experience of coming and studying with us. And then there'll be a Q&A period at the end. So hopefully we'll talk for about half an hour. We'll have about 15 minutes for students, and then there'll be around about half an hour, 45 minutes for us to be able to answer any questions. So you'll see the Q&A function. I'm sure you're all familiar with how these webinars work now. So the Q&A function, if you use the Q&A function to put any questions in there, and we will try and get to as many as possible at the end of the session. So I'm just going to share my presentation. Lovely. So, and we will get started. So, I will just say to my colleagues as well, a little bit behind the scenes, but now I can't see anything as I'm on my laptop and only have one screen. So if there is anything, please shout at me because I can't see any notifications anymore. But yeah, welcome to the session. Our three universities, Imperial, LSE, and UCL. You'll hear from us all individually. We are in some ways similar, in some ways quite different institutions, as you'll find out through the kind of presentation. But one of the things that links all of us is this idea of kind of world-class study. So we're all based in the same city in London, and we're all world-class universities. So we're all universities that you will find towards the top of kind of league rankings, any sort of kind of assessment or measure of universities globally. Or within the UK, you'll find Imperial, you'll find LSE, and you'll find UCL towards the very top of all of those kind of different measures. So applying to these kind of universities is a little bit different, and it is a lot more competitive than many other universities, maybe within the UK and around the world. So hopefully you're going to get some kind of tips, a little bit about kind of what sets us apart and makes us a little bit different, and what makes us kind of different from each other. I just wanted to start talking a little bit about the city, which we're all based in. London is, for those of you that have been, obviously you'll know. For those of you, normally at this stage I'd do a hands up, but we're in an online meeting, so I think that would cause chaos with this many attendees. But a lot of you may have visited London before, a lot of you may not. But it is an incredible place to come and visit generally, but it's also an incredible place to come and be a student. Obviously, we have an international reputation, but also an international reputation as a student city. Constantly voted one of, if not the top, it's quite often the top student city in the world. And it's an opportunity to meet students from all around the world, both within the universities that are here today, us LSE and UCL, and across all of the other universities that exist across London. And there's a really kind of international community of people coming from all around the world to come and study and to come and live in London, which means it's an incredible place if you're interested in kind of food and culture from other places. That's a fantastic place to come and do that. If you're interested in kind of academic study, which clearly you are because you're here today, it's also an incredible place to come and do kind of research, whether that's undergraduate, postgraduate, or kind of PhD level research. And also, before we kind of, I pass on to Sophie to talk a little bit more specifically about careers, the resources and the research, the people that we attract to London and the facilities that are on offer at our universities is kind of what you would expect from world-class universities like ours, and the kind of the level of research, the level of funding, the level of kind of academics, world-renowned kind of people will be teaching you, and we're able to attract some of the very best researchers and kind of resources from all around the world. I'm going to let Sophie, I believe, talk a little bit more about kind of specifically careers.
Thank you, Andy. Pleasure to join you this evening. I'm going to try that again. Lovely. With regards to careers, we know that when you're thinking about studying at a university abroad, it is also an investment in your future and the types of jobs or careers that you want to go into after you've graduated. So how do our universities support you when you're a student studying with us? Now, all of our universities offer a careers service, and it's a really fantastic department that you're able to get involved in as a current student, but also across our universities, even after you've graduated, more often than not, you can still access the career service. And I'm just going to mention a few of the ways in which you can engage with them. Now, for example, our career services offer things such as being able to go to workshops if this is for upskilling in particular areas. It might be that you've identified a job or an internship that you wish to apply to, and you can sit down with a careers consultant and have a mock interview, for example. So really actually practicing those job responses, those question responses in an interview for the very job or the sector that you wish to apply to. We also, through our career service, run employer fairs. Now, this might be on a larger scale, it might be departmental led, but we will bring top employers from the areas and sectors that you're interested in onto campus to come and meet you, the students. So again, this gives you an opportunity for networking. It gives you an opportunity to find out about any summer programs or graduate programs that a specific company is offering. Might even be just to network with someone within a company you're interested in so that you can do some work shadowing, for example. And quite often, we also have lots of online resources as well through our career service. So this might mean looking up for part-time jobs, for example, or any kind of experiences and workshops that you can do whilst you're on campus. Now, through the career service, you can also find out about internships. Now, of course, internships are a great way for you to understand the sector that you're most interested in, to get that real experience, that kind of jobs on experience, particularly relating to the degree area and the subject area that you're most interested in. Now, this could be a smaller internship maybe that you do over the Easter break, or it could be an internship that you do for a longer portion of your summer. Now, you may be aware, but in the UK, the summer holidays at our universities are quite long. They're almost 3 months long. So getting a longer summer internship, for example, is a great way to really build those connections and kind of work on those professional skill sets. Now, some of you on the call might be more entrepreneurial in nature. So our universities also offer enterprise hubs. Now, this might be for allowing you the opportunity to meet like-minded students who maybe want to set up their own business. It might be that you've got a really great idea, but you want to learn the skills on how to create a business case, for example. Or it might be that you're really business orientated, but you don't have that spark, that initial idea. So you want to meet up with another student or partner up with them. And often these enterprise hubs will also run large-scale competitions and fairs, and students can secure hundreds of thousands of pounds in funding for their original prototypes or their original ideas as well. And I've talked about networking, which of course you'll do as a student, just amongst your peers in the classroom, in your seminars and in your larger lectures. But it is also a really useful skill to develop whilst you're a student, not through just your lecturers or the professors who are teaching you, but again, through these people that you can meet with the career service. And I'll just end on that in the UK, we offer something called the graduate route visa. So once you've finished your studies, you can apply for the graduate route visa, which will allow you to stay in the UK for up to 18 months after graduating. Now, the great thing about this visa is it's not dependent on a particular salary or job that you need to have secured. It just allows you to remain in the UK for those 18 months. So this gives you additional time, whether that is that you have found a job that you want to apply to or you secured it already. There are other internships you want to do, or maybe it's just about staying in London a little bit longer or staying with your friends a little bit longer. But this graduate route visa is open to students after they've graduated. I'm going to hand over now to Emily, who's going to talk a bit about studying in London.
Thanks, Sophie. Yeah, so all of our institutions, as you've all probably guessed, we're based in central London, which means you have everything literally at your foot. So we have an incredible city for you to enjoy in terms of social life. So if you're thinking about going to the theatre or sports, or you want to go shopping or go out for dinner with your friends, London is an incredible city to enjoy and really enhance your social life while you're studying at university. We have a map on the next slide, which I'll go on to in a moment, but you'll see that we are located sort of across the city. And even though we are city-based, we all have our own sort of campus life individually, including accommodation and all of our teaching rooms. So you really get that little pocket of university life in the centre of London. Each of our institutions, though, we are varying in size, have incredible societies and sports teams that you can get involved in, and this makes up our Students' Union. So the Students' Union is owned and run by each university, and it's run by the students, and it's basically the place that you can go to if you want to join any sort of society or sports team and really get involved, meet new people and widen your network. And so that is each of our institutions have that themselves, and it's just a great way for you to enhance your life while you're studying. Obviously, you want to really focus on your studies while you're there, but having a great campus and a great city to be part of is really, really important. London is also consistently voted one of the best cities to be a student in, so that kind of sells it all for you. If you are looking for that incredible social life and student life, London really is an amazing place to be. For those of you who may have visited London before, it's super easy to get to in terms of flying. We're surrounded by airports, but it's also accessible by the Eurostar into mainland Europe. So it's really easy to get to and from Europe, but also if you're looking to explore England while you're there, it's a really great city with great access across the country. And then finally, support. Each university, we all have our own support and wellbeing teams, and they're there to essentially make sure that you settle into university easily. If you have anything come up where you might need support in any form, whether that's wellbeing, counselling, mental health, anything like that, we all have different support teams to help you. And in terms of being an international student, we also have international support teams as well. So we do have someone there who understands what it's like when you're moving abroad to study, and they're there to support you. Andy, if you could click to the next slide, that would be great, please. So I mentioned the map. So I've said we're all in central London. You can kind of see where we're each located. If I start on the left of the screen, we have Imperial there, and they're based in Kensington. So they are really close to the Royal Albert Hall and the Victoria Albert Museum, a really lovely location with lots of museums nearby, but also Hyde Park. London is incredibly green. If you are looking for a city that has both sort of city life and green life, London is a fantastic space for that, and you can see that just by some of the parks on the map. If we take a little bit of a journey up to the right, you'll see LSE. They're up in the legal district. And they're by the Royal Courts of Justice and near Bank. So if you're looking at the kind of courses that LSE offer, it's an incredible space to be in terms of immersing yourself into the world of the sort of subjects you'll be studying, but also just great networking opportunities and a really great central location. And then if we head a little bit further north, you then have UCL. And we're based in Bloomsbury, so we are by the British Museum and the British Library. It's a real sort of student heavy space. There's a few other universities in the local area, and it's a really great place to be in terms of access with King's Cross and St Pancras Station not too far away. That's kind of a bit of a roundup about sort of studying in London in terms of social life and our institutions, and I believe I'll pass back to Andy to talk more about Imperial.
Yes, I think my camera's microphone back on. So yeah, we're just going to talk a little bit about our 3 universities individually. As you can see, a little aerial shot of the Imperial campus in South Kensington here. So in the background, you can see Hyde Park, you can see the Royal Albert Hall. The kind of tower with a greeny roof in the middle of your screen is the tower at the centre of our campus in South Kensington, which is our home campus, our home base, where the majority of our undergraduate teaching happens. We do have 9 campuses spread across London, 2 main campuses, so in South Kensington and in White City, where we have our Deep Tech campus, where a number of our particularly tech-focused postgraduate courses happen, and also a number of our kind of bioscience labs are there as well, which are used a couple of undergraduate courses and also some postgraduate courses based in White City. We also have a number of hospital campuses and a large campus which our MSc Ecology program uses, or the programs that sit under that use out in Kent as well. So a few different locations, but kind of this is our home in South Kensington. This is our main campus, particularly at undergraduate. Some things to know about Imperial: we're kind of medium-sized in terms of UK universities, around about 22,000 students. Roughly 50-50 in terms of international students to home students, although at undergraduate there are slightly more UK students, so around 60%. Postgraduate is kind of the other way round. Roughly 50-50 in terms of undergraduate to postgraduate students as well. So we've got a big range of undergraduate and postgraduate courses, but we are a specialist university. So we're a specialist university in what we like to call STEM B or STEM occasionally. So you might be familiar with STEM, so that plus business, but we only teach in 4 kind of faculty areas. So we only have science, engineering, medicine, and the business school. Those are our only 4 faculties. And in fact, at undergraduate level, the business school only actually has 1 undergraduate course as well. So we're a very kind of science, technology focused university. And so we're looking particularly for students that have that strong kind of academic interest in their particular subject. Whilst there is a lot of opportunities to kind of explore ideas from outside of your subject, most of our courses, particularly at undergraduate, but also at postgraduate, are quite kind of specialist programs. So we're really looking for students that have that real kind of drive for kind of science or kind of engineering based subject. Having said that, our motto is science for humanity. So we also want students that are interested and want to gain the skills to use that specialist understanding of their subject area to do something, to go on and to change the world and impact humanity positively. Whether that's going on to work for kind of, large kind of companies anywhere across the globe, and we have a lot of relationships with a number of different industries, a number of different countries, and research organizations all across the world. Whether you're interested in going into research, we have lots of different programs at undergraduate level and also at postgraduate level for you to get involved with research alongside our academic department. So if that's something that interests you, then there's a lot of support available to do that. Or as Sophie mentioned before, a lot of our students are very entrepreneurial. A lot of students either already have an idea or discover something or have an idea whilst they're at Imperial. And there is a lot of support available if you are interested in pursuing that as well, from kind of world-class prototyping spaces to support and competitions based around kind of entrepreneurship, getting funding, getting experience, getting kind of mentorships. There's a lot of and kind of scaling up businesses. There's a lot of support for kind of student-led businesses if that's more your field as well. So I think that's everything for Imperial. So I'm going to hand over to, I think it's LSE next. It is LSE. So back to Sophie.
Thank you. Another lovely aerial shot for you here. So you can see that this is central London, and right in front of you, that kind of square quarter that you can see next to the greenery, that pretty much makes up LSE's campus. So we are very central, right in the heart of the legal district, as Emily mentioned earlier. So perfect for students who are interested in those subject areas. You can see the financial district, the skyscrapers, just kind of to the top of that picture. So for those interested in economics or accounting and finance, not far away. And then just off of the aerial shot, you've also got the Houses of Parliament for those who are interested in more of our government programmes. Now, when I talk about LSE, I like to take it back to history. So we were formed in 1895 by the Fabian Society, essentially the same individuals who set up the Labour Party here in the UK. Now, the reason the university was set up is there was a lot going on in the world, socially, economically, politically, and these individuals really wanted to understand why things are the way that they are and how they all affect one another. So this comes down to our motto, which is to understand the cause of things, and also to study subjects for the betterment of society, to look at subjects and understand how these topics and areas can be applied to the community. So this does make LSE a specialist university. We are the only specialist social science university in the UK, and one of only a few in the world with the particular focus on the subject areas that we offer. Next slide, please, Andy. And I think if you tap again, yes, lovely. So yes, in the name of our university, you do have economics, but we do offer other subject areas. So at undergraduate level, we offer about 40 undergraduate programs. So in comparison to other universities, quite limited, very specialised. At graduate level, all of those areas you can also see in grey and in white. We offer about 160 programs, but again, with a very particular focus on the social sciences. I like to highlight that we do offer areas such as geography, for example, environment. We also offer gender studies, health policy. But you can see here that we're not an institution that offer engineering or medicine or core sciences, for example. So we do have a particular community of students who all want to kind of study subject areas that we offer. At this point, it would be great to mention that we also offer something called LSE 100. So at your first year of study at undergraduate level, all students get to sit the module LSE 100, where we give you topics and themes to discuss, and you'll be sat with an accounting student or a history student, a finance student. It's students from all across LSE coming together to debate and work on those conversational skills, those debating skills. So previous topics have included things such as how can we control AI, and how do we also create fair society as well. So there's also an interdisciplinary approach at the university. Next slide, please. Few other things to then mention about LSE, which is that we are a very international community. We're about 68% international. We're also considered a small university, again, in comparison to others. We're 12,000 students. Now, that's made up about of 5,500 undergraduate, 6,000 postgraduate, and about 500 exchange students or sort of abroad students. So we really do have an international community, and that's also reflected in our staffing community as well. Something interesting to know about LSE is that we have had 40 world leaders either study or teach at LSE. And this comes back to this idea of the betterment of society, that students who've studied at LSE have taken the subject, the knowledge, the research that they've gained at the institution, and then applied that back in their home countries, whether that is to governance, healthcare, the charity sector, policing, for example, economy. So students really want to make change here at LSE. And so I suppose the final thing I'll end on is highlighting that at LSE, we run an event series that you can be involved in right now if you have an interest. We run over 100 events every year where we bring notable speakers from different sectors and all areas of subject areas we offer to come and deliver lectures to current student staff, but it is a public lecture series as well. So if you happen to be in London, you can also be involved. But we also release this as a podcast series. Now, a couple I'll just mention that I find are particularly particularly interesting is that we had the President of Finland last year come and give an inaugural lecture. And we also had Anthony Scaramucci. Now, if that name rings a bell to you, he's the former communications director of the White House during Trump's first term as president. So again, you can see the people that we're getting in to speak about economy, world politics, for example, and elections, these sorts of areas. You can be involved in this. And of course, it can really help you navigate whether you are interested in the subject area you wish to pursue at university. And so that's enough from me, but I'm now going to hand over to Emily to talk about UCL.
Thanks, Sophie. So rather than an overhead shot, we have a straight on shot here of the UCL portico. If anybody has either Googled UCL, had a look on the images, or ever been to visit us, this is probably the most well-known building, and it's our portico, which is the founding building of UCL. And it's now our library. So in this library, there are hundreds and hundreds of books. We try to have a copy of every book, and you as a student will have full access to the library. Similarly, if you want to visit the university, this is a great building to visit. I will mention though, this year is our 200-year anniversary, so we are an old institution and we are the oldest out of the three of us. But that 200-year anniversary has meant this building has had a facelift. So if you've tried to visit any time recently, you may have found that it's not looking its best, but it will do soon. But this is based in Bloomsbury. So as I mentioned on the map, Bloomsbury is sort of where our main campus is. And it's surrounded by some lovely parks and the museums and everything like that. But that is generally our main UCL building. If we go to the next slide, please, Andy. Thank you. Yeah, so as I mentioned, UCL, it's an old institution. We've been around for 200 years, and we have had students do amazing things from the very start of our sort of when we first started as an institution, all the way through to now. And we are an institution that is really proud to say that we were the first to accept women at university level education, and also the first institution to accept students regardless of religion, race, or social background. So it's something we are really proud of at UCL, and we have, like we say here, a history of inclusiveness. It's something that we like to shout about and talk about, and it's not just something that we did back in the day. We are still an incredibly inclusive institution even now, and it's something that we really power through as we grow as an institution and as we progress as an institution. In terms of size at UCL, we currently have over 50,000 students. So we are a large institution. Again, the largest institution out of the three of us. And we are about 50% international. So we have students coming from all over the world to study at UCL. We have students from about 150 countries. So as you can imagine, it creates a really great place to be in terms of the different students you'll meet, students from all over the world, and that really translates into the conversations that you have in the classroom, and the way you sort of learn about different cultures, different societies, and how different people learn. And it really is a great way to enhance your learning and sort of to think outside of the box, which is something at UCL we really want you to do. We have over 350 societies at UCL, and we also have about 50 sports teams. So if you're looking to do something outside of your studies, you can also get involved in that, and that is something we really recommend. It's a great way to meet other people, meet people with similar sort of hobbies as you, something to talk about outside of your studies. We can understand coming to our institutions can be quite intense and academically rigorous, so we really suggest that you get involved in societies and really be part of the community, and that is how we can then say we have such a powerful community at UCL. In terms of what we offer, we have quite a broad range of subjects. We have 11 faculties, and at undergraduate level that makes up around 400 to 500 undergraduate degrees, and at over 600 postgraduate degrees. So as you can imagine, that has a lot of different subjects, a lot of different things you can do, and they range from anything from architecture to psychology to law, literature, medicine. So we really do have quite a wide range of subjects that you can study, And something that we do a bit differently at UCL is we offer interdisciplinary programs. No matter how many times I say that, I still struggle. And that basically means that when you are studying a particular course, you sometimes have the option to take a module from another degree. So you can study something a little bit different during your course. What that does is it widens your outlook, it widens your perspective, it sort of helps you learn something completely different, especially if you're doing maybe a science course, but you want to add maybe a business module in there. It allows you to sort of broaden your understanding of subjects and see things from a different way. We also have incredible academics doing great things while they're teaching, but also as part of research, and that's something you can also get involved in. For example, we have a Huntington's disease unit, and that means that they were recently doing research into Huntington's, and they were able to sort of trial a new I can't remember what was that. They basically trialed it and they're able to help cure Huntington's for the first time. So that was a really great piece of research. And then finally, I'll just talk a bit about UCL East because I'm aware that I'm probably rambling on. UCL East is our newer campus. It's over obviously in the east side of London, and that has some more of our innovative courses. And it's a newer campus. It's coming to life. It's got accommodation there. It's got a students' union, and it's a really great place to be. And it's sort of growing in size as we go. So we've got Bloomsbury and UCL East as two of your campus options. And I think I'm still talking, so I think we'll go to the next slide. It's still me, if I'm right, Andy. Yeah, it's still me. So undergraduate applications. So if you are an undergraduate student or looking to apply to an undergraduate course, if you're still in high school, undergraduate applications all take place on something called UCAS. So UCAS is a sort of a portal in which you make your application. The way it runs is that you start your application, you fill in your details, and it will essentially allow you to make one application to 5 institutions. And what that means is you are looking potentially at 5 different universities for the same course. So, for example, if you're looking at something like law, you'd apply to 5 different choices, but it would tend to be one specific degree. When you're applying, something to note is that we have a January deadline. So this just passed last week on the 14th of January. So if you were looking for 2026 entry, that deadline has passed, but it's pretty much the same date year on year. So you want to keep that in mind when you're applying. If you are looking at anything like medicine, that does have an October deadline. So if you want to think about it, it's when you start your final year of school, that October would be the medicine deadline, and then the January of your final year would be the main UCAS deadline. As I mentioned, the form requires personal information. You talk about your academic background, and that is essentially putting in your grades. So that works in a base of the sort of what you're currently studying, and you'll have predicted grades, which I'll talk about on the next slide. You make your 5 choices, and then you add in a reference letter, which is done by your teacher. So if we can skip to the next slide. Yep, so when you're looking at predicted grades, these are predicted by your teachers. So these are the grades that you're predicted to get in your final exams, and your teachers will add those predicted grades into the application. Something to always keep in mind when you are looking to apply to universities, particularly like our 3 institutions, we have very specific grades that we will require, whether you are doing IB, A-level, if you're doing APs, or you're doing your local country's school system, we will have very specific grades for particular courses. So that is really something to keep in mind, that make sure you are doing the right subjects and you are predicted the right sort of entry grades. And so these can range from anywhere from A, B, B at A-level to 2 A stars and an A. And that's just something to always keep in mind to make sure that you are making an application to somewhere that you will have the right predicted grades for. Proven academic record is where I mentioned that we'll be looking at what you've studied. So you could put your year 12 studies and then your final year studies, or 11 and 12, depending if you're IB or A-level. And that's just something to keep in mind, that we want to see an overall how you're performing at school. Another thing to note is additional tests. So between the three of us, we range between additional tests and portfolios depending on the course. So we've listed some here, and these are pretty much common across the three of us. So UCAT is if you're looking at medicine, LNAT is the law exam, ESAT is engineering, TMUA is for sort of maths-based courses and economics, and then the TARA is a academic reasoning test which are applied to varying different courses. It could be anything from sort of sociology to maybe more of a science-based course. We will all list on our website if our particular courses need those tests, but it's really something you should really keep in mind and look ahead for, because you will need to book into those tests in time as part of your application. Reference is another important part as well. So the reference letter comes from your teacher or someone who has taught you before or works in your school. They may be an assigned reference sort of teacher that writes the reference letters, or it might be a particular teacher that you know very well. And these reference letters are to talk about you as a student as a whole. And then in terms of interviews, UCL has a few courses that we interview for. LSE, I believe, don't interview at all, and Imperial have a few courses with interviews. So again, it's something to keep in mind, but we put it on each of the course webpage. And then personal statement is another very key part for our institutions as part of the application. But Sophie is going to tell you more about that now.
Thank you, Emily. So with your undergraduate application, one part of this, and Emily's mentioned a few of the others, the grades, the reference, for example, academic record, one part is the personal statement, and this is quite important for selective universities. It's the only part of the application other than an interview, if you are invited for an interview, the only part where you get to authentically use your own words to tell us why you are interested in studying this subject area. So it's very important, especially in the UK, that your personal statement focuses more on the course and the subject area than your extracurricular activities you're in. And again, to make a distinction, the UK is very different from applying to the US system, for example. In the US, they would love to hear lots and lots about your extracurricular activities and your well-roundedness. Whereas in the UK, we're more focused on why you have an academic interest in this subject area. Now, the personal statement, recently as of 26-27, has now been broken up into 3 questions. It used to be 1 full statement, and now it's 3 questions. You could argue that if you took your 3 responses from these 3 questions and just put it on a document together, it would look the same as the previous statement. But UCAS are trying to help you in terms of formulating your responses, and so that we can see the pieces of information that we are looking for. Now, overall, across these 3 questions, we are generally at selective universities looking for between 75% and 85% of your statement, your answers to these questions, to be focused on the course and the subject area. This is far more important to us. So we are interested in, why have you chosen this programme? Why is it that you've chosen politics or music or engineering as the subject area that you wish to study? What is it that has attracted you to the subject area? And which aspects of the subjects sufficiently do you want to study to degree level? What is it about this subject that you want to study further? Because maybe you've already studied part of it at school or at college, but you want to delve into it further. And is there an area that you want to focus on? And what are the big issues in the subject area? And what do you find most interesting about them? Or what's going on with those subjects in the kind of current world focus right now? So it's, why is it this course? Your current interest in that course as well. This is also where I'd like to highlight that we want you to focus on something called supercurriculars and not extracurriculars. So I'll just highlight the difference here. Extracurriculars refers to things that you're involved in. It might be sport, it might be music, it might be charity work, for example, things that you do outside of school and college, and they don't relate to a subject area. It could be that you do them for fun or to develop a particular personal skill, but they don't relate to a subject. We, however, across our 3 universities and generally in the UK, are far more interested in a term called supercurriculars. Now, these are activities you are engaging in, but they do relate to your subject area. It's about either expanding your knowledge in this area, it could be about developing a particular skill that relates to this area, and it's about how it makes you more suitable to study this subject at university. So I'm not going to give you every single example, and I should say that there's no special nugget that we're looking for, but there are lots of different things that you could be doing. So first and foremost, additional reading outside of the books that you've been given at school and at college, outside of the curriculum, around the area that you're interested in. It could be books, it could be published work from a professor who teaches at a university you're interested in. It could be online journals and articles, for example. It could even be online taster lectures that you've attended. So if any universities are running taster lectures online, where you can actually get a sense of what it's like to sit in on a history lecture, or what it's like to sit in on an anthropology lecture, for example. Have you at your school completed an EPQ, for example? And what have you done as part of that additional research? Or are you listening to any TED Talks or podcasts? But again, they relate to your area. It could be reading The Economist, for example. It could be listening to a podcast around your subject area, exploring world music, for example, or art or design, or listening to an entrepreneurial podcast. These are all just examples of things that you could be doing outside of school and college, but they are furthering your interest in the subject area. We're also looking for examples of skills that you've already developed. Now, this could be in the classroom through your studies, but of course, some students might have had the opportunity to do a work experience or internship as well. And again, it relates to the subject area you're interested in, or the course, or the particular skills that you'll need for that course as well. And of course, you've got other things such as summer schools or anything that you've done outside of that classroom time. Now, everything I've just mentioned about your interest in the subject area and highlighting the evidence to show what you're doing about that interest, that is what makes up that 75 to 85% that we're looking for in the personal statement. The last question, or that remaining 15 to 25%, really, this is an opportunity for you to either further expand on what you've mentioned in question 1 and in question 2. So don't be afraid to use question 3 or the space there just to further expand on the ideas you've already brought up. But it could also be the place where you choose to talk about career aspirations, for example. If you've highlighted that by studying this particular subject and this particular course, it's going to allow you to pursue a career that you're interested in. It could be any other work experience that you've done, volunteering, mentoring, charity work, and of course, an opportunity to highlight if you are engaged in sport or music, for example, or any hobbies that you also hope to take up at university. We are interested in this, but we do like to focus on those supercurriculars over and above the extracurriculars. Now, all of this together will make up that statement, so which is now currently set as 3 questions that are posed to you. Couple of top tips with the personal statement. When it comes to it, don't, for example, use a quote to start with, unless it is like absolutely something that alighted your interest in a subject area. Quite often we find people use quotes because they don't know quite how to start, whereas actually we want your statements to be personal and authentic. So leading on from that as well, try and avoid phrases such as, since I was little, or since I could walk, I knew I wanted to become a lawyer or an economist. We understand the sentiment behind what you're saying, very sweet, but we also know that you didn't want to become an economist from the moment that you were walking. So it is absolutely fine to be authentic in your personal statement. If your interest in a subject area only started 2 years ago, it's okay to start from that point and talk about how you've then developed that interest. Don't feel that you need to build up this lifelong experience or interest in an area if it did only genuinely begin within the last few years. I will just end there by also saying across all 3 of our universities, we do put our personal statement advice on our websites. So lots of further information, top tips and best advice of things to avoid. So do utilise our websites for looking up information regarding what it is we are looking for in the personal statement. And I believe I'm now handing over to Andy.
Yes, thank you very much, Sophie. So yeah, I did just want to say, before I kind of talk more specifically about postgraduate courses, did want to say as well, hopefully, even if you are listening to that and thinking, oh, I'm applying for a master's course, so the personal statement thing isn't relevant. I do want to say that it is relevant. So do go back and listen to the recording, because everything Sophie said about kind of personal statements and about the things that we're looking for are the same things that we're looking for when people are applying to postgraduate. The same principles apply. If anything, you can be even more specific. So at postgraduate level, unlike at undergraduate level, you will apply directly to the university for a particular course. Most of our universities will allow you to apply for kind of 1 or 2 courses in a particular year. It may be slightly more depending on the subject, but you are applying directly to that university for that particular course. But you will have to write, it's written up there as a statement of academic purpose, and different universities may call it slightly different things. But in essence, it is the same thing as the undergraduate personal statement, and we are looking for the same kinds of things. So what have you done to prepare for study? Why are you interested in studying on this particular course? And as I say, you can be a lot more specific, because you are just applying to that university and just that course. So you can be really specific about why you want to apply to that particular course at that kind of particular university or within that particular department of that university. I will take a step back from that very quickly. You will see a lot of kind of letters around UK universities, a lot of kind of acronyms and various things. And you will see these that I've got at the top there: MA, MSc, MPhil. Those are different types of master's courses offered by UK universities. Those are the main ones that you're likely to see. Generally speaking, MA courses are more kind of arts related subjects. MSc are science related courses, and MPhils and MReses are generally more research based masters. So you will find masters, again, broadly speaking, split into 2 categories. Generally, MA and MSc type subjects are what we call taught masters. So they'll be similar to your undergraduate degree. There'll be lectures, there'll be kind of seminars, there might be labs or more science-based subjects, but it will, in essence and in structure, be quite similar to an undergraduate, often with a research project at the end. So often a kind of 2 or 3 month kind of research project at the end of the masters, similar but bigger than an undergraduate kind of dissertation or an undergraduate kind of project. The other types of masters, so MPhils and MReses, are more what we call research-based master's degrees. So unlike undergraduate degrees and unlike taught masters, generally you will be doing a research project throughout the whole year. So it'll be a year-long research project. There may be some teaching and there may be some kind of modules and taught elements, but generally it will be a year-long research project. Similarly to undergraduate degrees, there are entry requirements for most master's courses. R3 universities will generally be looking for at least the equivalent of a UK 2-1 degree. Some subjects may ask for the equivalent of a first. So that's the highest level in the UK. And if you have a look on our websites, you will see the equivalencies for the country that you're from. So it will vary a little bit by kind of country. Also differently to undergraduate, generally, most universities at postgraduates, some will have strict deadlines, some will have what we call kind of gathered deadlines, some will have kind of split into various deadlines throughout the year, but generally applying early is encouraged. For a lot of subjects, we will start making offers as soon as those courses are open, and then we will shut those courses once we have enough good applications. So generally, early applications are encouraged. I would normally say in terms of, again, very much varies by subject, so do check with your individual subject, but generally we'd be kind of encouraging students to apply probably by around January, February of the year that they're looking to start. Earlier than that is definitely encouraged, so if you can do it a full year before you are looking to start, that is also kind of generally encouraged. And if you've not yet finished your bachelor degree, you can get your university to apply a transcript to date. And again, similarly to kind of undergraduate degrees, it will be any offer that we make you will be based on whether you actually achieve that. We also will ask for academic references. Even if you've been out of university for quite a while, we will still want a minimum of one academic reference. Two academic reference is the standard. So normally that would be a kind of personal tutor or a supervisor and one other academic that you have worked with closely during your academic studies. Even if that was quite a long time ago, there are some subjects and some circumstances where a professional reference may be appropriate for the other one, but generally two academic references is the kind of gold standard. I will talk about PhDs, although in the UK, PhD study is a little bit different, shall we say. There is loads of advice on our websites as well. But generally speaking, the way that PhDs mostly work in the UK is that you'll come up with an idea of what you want to do for your PhD. You will then have a look at universities that you are interested in. You'll have a look at their websites. You'll have a look specifically at the academics working in the department you're looking to study in, and you will find usually, let's say, one, two, three, maybe supervisors within that department. So people in the department that already work there that are interested in a similar kind of area, and you can write them a kind of email or contact them to say, I'm interested in writing a PhD around this kind of subject area. And then the process would be that you would kind of then they would say, yes, I've got availability, or I'm able to supervise, or interested in supervising, or have the capacity to supervise that subject, that PhD. And then you'll put together a more detailed proposal, and then you will apply later on. So generally finding a supervisor is the first kind of step, and everything else comes on after that. There are some, particularly in science-related subjects, there are some what we call kind of more applied for PhDs. So that is where the project already exists. So rather than you having an idea, you will apply to undertake research that already usually comes with funding. Again, those are mostly in science-related subjects, and you can find out those usually on the university websites. And it's very similar to applying for a job. So that is slightly different. That will already have a supervisor, already have funding attached, and you will apply like any other job. The entry requirements will generally be similar. We'll look for you to have a very kind of good master's level degree from a reputable university in the world. Again, it is a little bit more complicated, so do look through the guidance, and it does require quite a lot of input in terms of looking for supervisors in kind of on university websites, having a look at what kind of research is kind of going. But generally speaking, if you already know what you want to write for a PhD, the first kind of port of call is to approach a couple of supervisors with a general kind of topic idea, and then start to work on research proposals. And again, looking at funding options alongside that as well. Our websites are, again, really good resources for looking at various kind of types of funding and funding bodies that are available. And again, once you have a supervisor who's willing and able to supervise you, they may be able to give you more advice on looking at kind of funding options and places that you might want to look. I think I'm handing back to Emily just to round us off with some kind of practical advice.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. Yeah, so just the last slide here about fees, funding, and sort of other practicalities. And it's probably something that you're really going to take into consideration when looking at where you want to study is obviously how much the tuition fees are. Currently, for our institutions at undergraduate level, international tuition fees range between £28,000 and £45,000 per year of study. So this really ranges per course as to the cost of the course per year for tuition, but also depends which institution. Obviously, we vary in how much our courses cost per year. Something to note is as well that for medicine, it ranges between £55,000 to £58,000 per year of study. So that is obviously a big thing to keep in mind when you're thinking about your studies, and that would be for 3 years of your undergraduate degree. One thing to note is that when you start at an institution, the cost of the tuition that year will be the cost of the fees for the rest of your years of study.
It's still going. My laptop nearly died whilst I was.
I'm just going to see if I can mute Andy. There we go. So for postgraduate international tuition fees, these are around £25,000 to £51,000. Andy has just skipped slide. Thank you. So that again ranges between different courses as to how much they cost per year study. Again, just something to keep in mind. If you are unsure whether or not you'd be classed as international or home fee payers, there is a great website called UKCISA, which is UKCISA. It's a really great website. You basically put in your information and they will be able to give you a general idea as to whether you would be classed as a home fee or an international paying student. We aren't able to make that call ourselves. We have sort of team who will look into that, so we can't answer on the spot, but it's a really great website to use to give you some good advice. In terms of cost of living, so tuition fees is simply just paying for the course. Cost of living is obviously how much money you'll probably need month to month. Currently, we are saying around £1,800 per month. That's an average, and that really just depends on who you are as a student and what you do with your time. So that covers accommodation, your food, your travel, and sort of social costs. Obviously, if you like to shop a lot or you like to go out for coffee every day, then that average is going to be a lot higher for you. But that is kind of what we say for a student living in London, is the kind of amount of money that you would need to make sure that you can budget for per month. Obviously, you can be more frugal, you can budget with your food shop. All these kinds of tips and tricks will be really helpful for you as a student, but we just want to give a general average. Another thing to look into is funding. So there are scholarships available at each of our institutions, and they are for all different levels of study. So whether it's undergraduate, postgraduate, masters or PhDs, those kind of things. We do have scholarships available. They vary per institution. They vary in how big the scholarship is, but we all have a scholarship finder of sorts, and it's a really useful web page for you to use. And you can often filter by where you're from, what course you want to study, what level of study you are applying to, and it will show any scholarships that are available. I would say across all our board, I think I'm right in saying that each of our universities tend to offer scholarships that are application based. There may be a few that are automatically applied, but they tend to be application based. So that is a separate application to the degree you want to study. In terms of accommodation, again, another cost to think about that is included in that sort of monthly average, but we each have accommodations available at undergraduate and at postgraduate level. Again, vary in cost, and it will vary whether you maybe go ensuite, non-ensuite, whether you go for catered or non-catered. Again, just depends on each institution, but we do have accommodation available, and that is just something to keep in mind cost-wise, but also to keep in mind in terms of applying to accommodation. And that tends to, for UCL in particular, that's sort of March time, but it tends to be from March onwards that you'd look at accommodation. Final two bits, student visa. It is likely that many of you on this session will need a student visa, and the student visa is what you will need to apply for once you get a unconditional offer from the institution. Essentially what happens is once you receive your unconditional offer, you then get a CAS letter, and this is a confirmation of acceptance of studies, and that is the letter you use to apply for your visa, and then your visa allows you to travel and study in the UK. The visa will also allow you to work up to 20 hours a week, and again, that's sort of 20 hours work. We often suggest looking at student ambassador roles at the institution you're studying at. It's flexible work, it works around your schedule, but it's a great way to help you earn some money to help fund your studies or your social life or whatever you want to put the money towards. And then finally, as part of the visa application, there is an NHS surcharge, and that charge means that you pay a fee, and that then gives you access to our healthcare. in the UK. So you'll be able to access the NHS should you need it, or if you fall ill at any time, you'll be able to access that, and it's covered within the visa. And that is basically a big roundup of all the sort of standard sort of practicalities, fees and funding that you might want to think about when looking at studying in the UK. And then I think I pass back to Andy at this point. Yes, are you there? Yeah.
You do, yes. I'm trying to work out which camera. I feel like I'm in a TV studio with too many webcams on. Yes, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop sharing my presentation. We do have ambassadors from each of our universities, I believe here. So I'm just going to, hopefully you're still there. I'm just going to invite them to kind of just spend 5 minutes talking, because I think it's really important. So we, as professionals, can give you all of the information about the university, about the courses, about kind of practicalities of applying and what we're looking for. But actually, I think it's really valuable to hear from people that have actually had that experience, have gone through it, and have studied at these kind of incredible institutions that we all work for. So I am going to ask, should we have Precious first? Are you there, Precious? Amazing. So yeah, first of all, we got Precious from Imperial. So she's just going to spend a few minutes talking about her experience.
All right. Hello, everyone. Good evening. My name is Precious. Thank you so much, Andy. I just completed my MSc at Imperial in Geoenergy with Machine Learning and Data Science. I'm from Nigeria. I came on a full scholarship, and that was what sponsored me throughout my period at Imperial. Learning at Imperial was so wonderful. It was such a diverse class, so lots of people from lots of different places. And so I never really felt alone, like strange. There were always people to interact with within my class. And then there are lots of activities that go on as well. There's so many societies. There are like 400 clubs. So like there's always something to do that will keep you engaged, and like some extracurricular activity to be engaged in. And overall, it was a very wonderful learning experience. I think it was very practical, being able to learn things and apply them. And then I got to do my project with a company as well, an internship that I secured within my school year as well. So, and I've also leveraged the career service a lot, and that's been very helpful for me. So I would really say that it's a worthwhile experience putting in the work coming here, and just know that like you can do it, right? Don't disqualify yourself. Put in the work, review, work on your statement, and you'll be fine. I wish you all the best. Thank you. All right, Andy.
I've had a mid session change of setup, so the camera and mic. Yes, thank you so much, Precious. And again, if you do have any questions, please do. I've noticed that there is quite a few questions in the Q&A. We will get round to as many of those as possible. So if you have any questions directly for our students, please do get in touch in the Q&A, and we'll try and put as many of them as possible to the students that we've got. I believe Alba is here from UCL as well.
Yes, hello.
Amazing. Over to you then, Alba.
Okay, hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Alba. I'm an undergraduate student at UCL. I'm currently in my first year and I study biomedical engineering. I'm an international student and I come from Spain. And so far, like my experience at UCL has been absolutely incredible. Like you could say that I'm quite like a new, like my experience has not, like I still have to go through a lot more stages, but like um the first term of university at UCL has been absolutely amazing. I've been loving my course. I've been meeting so many people and honestly enjoying so much like all the social aspects of the university as well. They have so many societies to offer and just like amazing opportunities to meet people from all over the world because as it has been said, you can definitely tell that, especially in London in general, but especially in UCL, there's people from all over the world. So you're gonna meet like people from countries that you've never met, like people from cultures and countries that you've never heard of before. And it's so interesting to like learn, like not only from your classes and your courses, but also from all these experiences and all these people that you're gonna meet. But on the academic side, it's incredible to see like the level of professionalism that the teachers and lecture leaders at UCL have, and also the all the support that is available to like help you, because obviously like if you're an international student, especially like moving abroad by yourself at such a young age is not an easy experience, but UCL has amazing support available both in terms of your studies and your personal life. So if you ever need like any support, whether it's financial or like mm, just in terms of like advice or what to do, there's so many like amazing support available. For example, during our first term, we had like as first years we had like a students from second or third year like helping us like to settle in and guide us through the first term, and just someone there for us to like ask any questions that we needed. And also we had those were called the transition mentors, and we also have tutors which help you with anything like more career related, and just any questions that you may have, there's always someone that you can ask. And I think that's such an incredible feature at UCL, because it really helps you with like settling in and just finding your place at the university, which can be like really hard if you don't really know what to do. But yeah, with all the support available and honestly all the amazing people that you meet, it's generally such an enjoyable experience. And I really hope to see some of you guys here next year, because yeah, it's an amazing experience. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Again, I don't know what camera to look at there. Thank you so much, Alma. That was really useful. I believe that we have got an ambassador from LSE. Duria, is it?
Hi,
Raya?
yes, I'm Duria, yeah. Well, hi everyone, I'm
Lovely.
Duria. I'm a second year student at LSE. I do politics, philosophy, and economics. So I grew up in Bangalore, India, and I moved to London just for university. So I've been here for about 1.5 years now, and I'm absolutely loving it. It's like a really cool city. There's always loads of stuff to do, and I think having a campus in like this heart of the city is always amazing. Like there's so much to do on campus with like different study spots and cafes, but even just right around us, like there are lots of cool events, lots going on. It's just a great place to be. Um, the academics at LSE is amazing. It can be slightly tough sometimes, but um, it's very like it's very specific to the social sciences, and so you get to be surrounded by people who have a lot of the same really cool interests as you, and you get to learn from really specialized, really great professors. Um, I lived in student accommodation first year, and now I'm living in a flat, and I think I loved both experiences. I think just being in London is on its own quite amazing. And there's loads of international students at LSE, and I'm sure at all the other universities. So it never feels like you're like really alone. I think all of London itself is quite diverse. And there's always cultural societies, cultural events that you can attend if you are feeling kind of homesick. I would just advise anybody who's coming to like make the most use that they can of all the really fun stuff that happens around us, and also all the resources that we have. I think the other ambassadors mentioned this as well, but there's always someone to help you with your well-being, your career, your academics, and just generally, it can be super useful to have all of that support when you're settling in. But yeah, good luck, everyone.
Thank you so much. If I can invite, I'm going to try and.
Andy, you're muted, just FYI.
Can't hear you now.
Still muted, I'm afraid. Whilst Andy is muted, I will jump in then and ask our ambassadors just a couple of questions just to kind of further explore the topics that you've talked about when it comes to your student experiences. So thank you all so much for sharing already. If I could ask each of you, maybe if there's just one element of your program that you could pick out, something that you really love about studying your subject area, or what specifically your university offers with regards to that program. So Precious, could I come to you first? Is there what's kind of the specific thing about your program, like one special nugget that you really love?
I think with the way the program was structured, I think that was one of the things I appreciated the most, the regular blend between practicality and theory. Like it didn't just stop at hearing about a particular concept, like you were actively applying the information received to real world problems. And it does this to your mind where you are more excited to actually solve real problems and not feeling like this knowledge isn't going to count towards something you would actively do in the real world. Because, like I mentioned, my program is geoenergy with machine learning and data science. And just looking at real world applications. So we did something that had to do with brain scans for MRIs and many more projects that were just very inclined to what we were about, some even energy projects and some even with real world data within the UK. So I think the practicality of it, that was one of the things that made it as enjoyable as it was. And I'll just throw this in, the need, like a lot of group work as well. That was something that I really enjoyed because it forced, in a sense, that interaction where people probably have wanted to be in their shells, but now you have to interact. And by that, lots of amazing friendships and relationships were formed. And I think that's also very beautiful. Thank you.
That is beautiful. Thank you for sharing. And Alba, can we come to you now?
Yeah, so I was actually gonna say quite a similar thing because in my program I do engineering and like especially during the first term we had a lot of like subjects that rather just like teaching us content and assessing us on it, what we had were a lot of group projects and like just coursework to complete and also a lot of practical sessions. So I feel like that aspect of my course really surprised me honestly and was very like I feel like it's extremely useful, particularly for a course like engineering, because that it prepares you so much for like what you're gonna experience once you graduate and get work experience. And it was honestly like I did not expect to like my course to actually be like that, but I really enjoyed it. So like and it's such a like a special aspect of it, I feel like.
I think it's great that you get that kind of practical element as well. And then Duria, can we come to you?
Yes, of course. So I do PPE, and I think that's just such a special course because of how interdisciplinary it is. And I think LSE does really well with that. So I really enjoyed how all of my modules are with different departments, completely different faculty, and like the students that I'm studying with are also completely different. But even then, I can sort of see similarities or connections between everything, and you do really just see how it like ties together and gives you like a really good understanding of the world. So if anyone's applying to PPE, you've made a good choice. I think also it's really, I don't know, I think it's just really cool that a lot of the faculty I've had are like actually experts at the things that they're teaching us. And that sort of passion really comes through when they're talking about something. And I think a lot of my personal like academic interests have been inspired just by, professors and how much they like the thing they're talking about. So I think that's super useful as well.
That's so nice to hear about kind of the involvement that you get with those professors.
Yeah.
I'm going to hand back over to Andy and we'll just test if his mic is working.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me now? I've turned the right microphone on now. It does help. Yeah, thanks so much. And thanks so much to the student ambassadors. I've already got a couple of questions for you in a second. But we'll start on some questions for us. So somebody has asked, when it comes to when talking about personal statements, when Sophie was talking about those, when it comes to kind of supercurricular activities that are competition or scores based, so things like Olympiads for kind of math subjects and things like that, is it important in terms of kind of placement in competitions or high scores in any of those sorts of things, or is it more about the kind of participation and engagement? I think we'll take yeah, we'll take that one. I'll answer it first from an Imperial point of view, and then I'll hand over to Emily or Sophie. There's a couple of bits of that. Obviously, high scores and high placing in competitions are going to reflect well, but just placing highly in kind of things like Olympiads or competitions isn't going to be enough to kind of secure your place or to get an offer of a place. So we are as interested, particularly Imperial, we are as interested in the reasons why you entered the competition. What were you hoping to get out of the competition? What did you do? Why did you choose to do what you did within the kind of competition? Why did you choose to kind of go about it in the way that you did? That was and kind of a reflection, you know, did it kind of make you want to do this kind of thing more? Did it make you more interested or less interested in a particular area of your subject? All of those sorts of reflections afterwards, I would say, are kind of more important than the placement. Not that the placement, and particularly if you tend to do kind of well in those competitions, it is going to reflect well. But just that is not kind of enough. So it is also important to kind of think about those sorts of things. The other thing that I would always kind of say is you know, I had a chat with an academic the other day, and they were saying about the question was along the lines of, you know, if I've done really badly in the Maths Olympiad, should I write about it? Not necessarily, but also the kind of the advice that I was given was, you know, sometimes kind of failure or like what were you trying to do and why didn't it work is a really interesting thing to kind of reflect on. So it could be something that you want to write about even if you haven't placed particularly highly, or maybe you took a risk or you tried to do something and it didn't quite work out. But what have you learned from that experience can be as or even more interesting on occasion than, you know, winning your school competitions or kind of placing really highly in Olympiads. So yeah, a bit more complicated than one or the other. But I think, yeah, both can be really interesting. Sophie, I don't know if you've got anything to add.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything that you said. I suppose I would use the example for LSE, as I'm sure some people will be aware. At LSE, the application ratio for some of our programs can be quite high. And so there's an argument that we get from students, which is, well, I performed very well in my IB or my A levels or in a different qualification, for example. However, many of the applications that we're receiving, students are performing well. So just by getting a 43 in the IB or by performing well in test scores doesn't automatically guarantee that you'll receive an offer at the university. And therefore, when we talked about the personal statement earlier, the personal statement does carry importance and weight, because what we are also trying to understand, not only just academics alone, in terms of your schoolwork or college work, but actually how you understand the subject area, your understanding of it, how you want to study it further, and how you might want to apply it into kind of the world, the context of the wider world. Any topics that you're particularly interested in on a global scale right now. So an example would be you could have a very high performing student, but they actually write quite a weak personal statement. They write it a bit like a shopping list. And we're actually looking to avoid a shopping list. We're not looking for, I scored well here and I've done that and I've done this. We're actually more interested in the reflection that you do as part of your personal statement. And therefore, you might have a student who has still performed well, maybe not as well as other students, but their personal statement is more competitive because they're actually able to do more of that reflection. So yes, scores are important, but I would say your personal statement and the way in which you reflect upon your activities is more important.
Emily, anything from a UCL perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think both of you have answered it very well and covered it to match up for UCL, and for fear of repeating what you said but in a different way, I think the other thing just to think about is whether whatever you've done, whether it's a particular test or something academic at school that you've done a good score on, it's whether or not it relates to what you're applying to. So it might be that you have done incredibly well in this maths project, but actually you're applying to something completely different. And that comes back into the reflection side of it that Sophie and Andy both spoke about. So it's always just thinking about the relevance of, yes, I did great in this particular project at school, but can I actually relate that into my personal statement and the course I want to study? And if not, though it's great, it maybe doesn't make your application doesn't support it well because it's not necessarily super related, which is pretty much probably what you both said, but just wrapped up in a different way. But yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that was really useful. Thanks for Emily for kind of clarifying and kind of summarizing what the kind of thing. So yeah, it is complicated, but it's more about kind of you as an individual and how you're using that kind of experience. One for the ambassadors now. So one for our students who are there. So the question is about hours of individual study, but and kind of how many hours of individual study. I'm hoping to get some different answers across different kind of levels, different universities and different subjects. We'll find out in a minute. But yeah, if you can talk maybe just for a minute or two. So the question is about kind of how many hours of individual study and kind of classes would you expect in a typical week? But you might want to talk a little bit kind of wider. So talk for a minute about kind of, generally about workload and kind of, in terms of academic work and your studies, and I know there is no such thing as a typical week, but what kind of does a typical week or a typical couple of weeks look like for you in your subject? Who shall we go to first? Let's go to Precious first.
All right, thank you so much, Andy. So, like I mentioned, my program was a master's program, so it took the approach of a 9 to 5 system. So we had classes every day from 9 to 5, every weekday from 9 to 5, so Monday to Friday. And we never really had any work that spilled over to the weekends, because whatever you're learning that week, you'll most likely have the assessment for it towards the end of the week. So everything is closed up within that week. So it made it easier to plan around, and then you also have the leverage to have your weekends in a sense to yourself, and then you can plan your study hours for the evening to then be refreshed ahead of the new day. So I think that's a general idea of the workload. For context, I also kind of worked a bit while I was doing my studies, and I was able to balance that with schoolwork. So I'm just trying to let you see that it was understanding it and knowing the structure made it easy for you to plan your life around it. So yeah, thank you.
Amazing, thank you. Doria from UCL.
Yeah, so I'm at LSE, but I spend about 15 hours.
I did mean, so sorry,
No,
I did mean LSE. So
okay.
sorry.
No, that's totally okay. But yeah, so at LSE I spend about 15 hours a week on campus, those are my contact hours. So I have either lectures or classes during that time. And then outside of that, maybe about 3 to 4 hours for each of my courses per week as well. So that would be, I guess, about a little under 40 hours a week. So you can think of studying kind of as a full-time job. But at the same time, I do also have a job. So I get to work flexible hours, which is super helpful, but it is possible to work a little bit at least while you're studying. I also run a society, and I also have time to hang out with my friends. So I think it is completely doable to, I don't know, keep in touch with your academics, but also have a life outside of it.
I'm so sorry. I'll try and get the right name and the right university. Albert from UCL.
Yeah, thank you. Well, personally, I'd say I have also around 16 hours of classes and lectures every week, but it varies a lot depending on what's going on. And every day it can vary from having 2 hours of class to 6 hours, but it also really depends on your course and honestly, my timetable changes every week. But yeah, generally I would say around 16 hours a day. So that's 3 hours a day on average, and then of independent study also really varies depending on what coursework you have or whether you have exams or not. But I would say at least like from 1 to 3 hours a day is required to like keep up with like everything that's going on. So yeah, I would say that's kind of an average, but it really like varies like depending on the time of the year and everything.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Hopefully we've covered and thankfully we did get 3 quite different answers from different subjects, different levels and different universities. So it does vary. A lot of that information is available, and also I'd recommend kind of looking, if you can, coming to open days and asking those questions, or kind of, you know, virtual events specifically run by departments, because it does vary so much. We can give you a general idea, but it does vary a lot by kind of individual subject area and things like that. We've had a complicated question, which I'm hesitant to answer, but I feel like we should, since I think 2 different people have asked variations on a similar question about coming from Ireland. My understanding, so the question was about B status when coming from Ireland. My understanding is usually students from Ireland will normally be eligible for home Bs. Hopefully I'm going to get a nod from either Sophie or Emily at some point. My understanding is usually those students are eligible for home fee status, but will not be eligible for any kind of UK-based student finance programs. So it will normally, for most students, and again, unfortunately, you will have to do your research and we can't kind of give kind of, but generally, as a rule, Irish students will be eligible for home fees. So we'll pay the same as a UK student, but will not have access to student finance. There may be some scholarships available. Thanks, Emily. There may be some scholarships available. I know somebody asked specifically from Ireland about scholarships. There may be some, although I will say that a lot of the scholarships are less kind of are not necessarily always available for Irish students. So they may not be eligible for the ones that are directed towards international students. You may be eligible for some of them directed towards home students. But again, have a look at the university's websites and things like that. There was one question that I was about to ask the ambassadors before I got distracted by Irish residency. Give me 2 seconds. This question, I will direct this one at the current students. I'm going to try and get your names right and the universities right as well. The question is about any kind of particular courses that we might recommend. But in terms of preparation that you did before you came to university, so anything that you did, any kind of summer courses that you may well have done for your kind of personal statement, or you may have done anything, what have you found the kind of most useful bit of preparation that you did for coming to study at a university like LSE, like UCL, and like Imperial? So whether it's a summer course or an online thing or coming to an open day. I will let you answer. Let's try and get this right first time. So Daria from LSE, shall we go to you first?
Yay, yes, sure. So I didn't actually do a summer course of any kind, but I do think that it was just really, really useful to go through all of the resources I could find online for the universities I was interested in. Lots of these universities have really cool websites with a bunch of the information you need. There's open day events, there's like online events if you can't actually make it to London. And you can usually find recordings of previous events as well. It's also just super useful to attend events like this because then you get to ask like the very specific questions you have. Apart from that, I think it's really important for you to know whether you like your course. And so for that, I would recommend doing readings, going through like the syllabus that you find and the specific modules that the universities offer, and seeing whether there are things that you can actually imagine yourself doing in the future. And yeah, really just do as much research as you can and give yourself as like detailed of a picture as you can.
Let's go to Alba from UCL next.
Yeah, so on my end, I also didn't attend like any summer courses or like come to actually any open days in the UK. But what really helped me like decide like where I wanted to study and whether I was like eligible to apply to my course was like going to a lot like events organized by my school personally, like webinars, and sometimes we'd have like guest speakers come over to like share about like what the universities are like. And I also had the chance to come and visit UCL and get like a campus tour around February last year. And sometimes there's also like a possibility of attending like university fairs in your cities if that's an opportunity that you have. They were definitely like super helpful to like especially help me choose like where I wanted to study, and also all the opportunities available for like my course and my subject area.
Amazing. And Precious, similar kind of question about kind of, yeah, preparation and things that you found useful before you applied to come and study at Imperial.
Yeah, thank you so much, Andy. So, I mean, of course, I think part of it will be pretty similar. The information sessions, webinars organized such as this one, getting information from there. The university website was also something that I used a lot. I remember I was on the web page for my department like nearly every day for about a month at some point, because I just kept reading and looking and looking and looking. So that I wouldn't like miss out on any fine details. I remember looking at the syllabus as well to know if it was something I wanted to do. I didn't, take a summer course or anything. I just worked with my grades from university, and I had been involved in some leadership activities and just tried to highlight those in the way I wrote my personal statement, reflecting and just showing that there is more to you than just your achievements, but also that you actually care a lot about this thing that you're going for. I think the authenticity above all else is one of the things that shines through when you put out your application. So yeah, thank you.
Amazing. That's luckily we're out of time, but that's also, I think, a really nice kind of message to kind of end on. I know that there have been some questions that we haven't managed to get around to, so please do feel free to get in touch with us through our websites afterwards. If you do have any specific questions that we haven't managed to get around to, I think hopefully we've covered most of the subjects that came up repeatedly. But thank you so much to everyone for joining us. A massive thank you to Emily and Sophie as well, but particularly to Precious, to Dulia, and to Alba. It is really valuable hearing from current students. As I said at the time, it's all very well us giving you kind of, facts and how to apply and what we're looking for. But I think getting your kind of individual insight is kind of amazing and really, really useful for everyone. So yeah, thank you so much for giving up your time this evening as well. A little round of applause for you. Well done. Thank you so much. And yeah, thank you so much everyone for attending. Please do get in touch if you do have any more questions afterwards. You can find our details through our website. You can find a lot more information on courses, scholarships, and all of that as well. But yes, I know we're out of time, so I will end everything there. Thank you so much to everyone. Have a lovely evening. And yeah, good luck with kind of applications. Hopefully we'll see all of you either at open days or on campus at one of our 3 universities very soon. So yeah, thank you very much. Goodbye.